everyone. I started about a minute earlier or so just to get to let everyone have a chance to get here. So I'll probably wait another minute just to make sure that everyone has a chance to get in because I think there's like 40-ish more people that registered. So I just want to make sure that no one's like running in from lunch or something like that because I know at 1 p.m. is a little bit of an awkward time. Okay, it's 1:01. I think that's enough time. I waited about a minute and I think everyone that's here has registered. I don't know if we're waiting for anyone else. So I'll just get right into it. So hi, everybody. My name is Sophie, and I'm part of the customer success team based in Toronto. Thank you for taking the time to join us for today's Beyond the Basics webinar. Before we begin, like usual, I just want to remind everyone that as this is a Beyond the Basics webinar, this is designed for users who have already been on a trial or have an account and are familiar with at least the basics of building trips in the Trip Publisher. Just because I'm going to gloss over a lot of things that I am just going to assume everyone has like a base level of knowledge about. So for any new users that are joining today, I would usually suggest joining the Introduction to Umapped webinar, which is hosted every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can register for one of our upcoming intro webinars by going to umapped.com, finding the webinars button, and then it's usually the second option right here in the list. So the Introduction to Umapped webinar. Or you can always go to our support portal, which is support.umapped.com. And we actually just reorganized this a little bit. So you're going to find the resources at the very bottom, but that's where you'll find the webinars category, and it will contain all of the different recordings we've ever done. So that will include the introductory webinar if you want to watch that, or any of the past more Beyond the Basics, more advanced webinars we've done. Okay. So let me just pull up the agenda again. And all right, so during today's webinar, we're going to go over all of the features and functionality that will help agency owners or agency managers get their agency set up within the Trip Publisher. So this is going to include adding company information, logos, multiple brand profiles if you have a couple different brands, setting up groups of users within the Trip Publisher. So we'll be looking at group templates, collaborating on trips, different things like that. Setting up integrations for your company. So if you use Sabre, getting that set up ahead of time so that everybody's ready to go. And then we'll look at, lastly, creating company-specific documents, templates, and tags so you can see how these can be used across your agency rather than just by yourself. So today is really going to focus on like getting things set up for and optimized for collaboration within your agency. So given that these are mainly things that can be done by company administrators, if anybody today doesn't see some of the features or options that I'll be demonstrating, and you actually are the agency owner or manager, please just get in contact with us at support@umapped.com so that we can ensure your account is correctly set up. Otherwise, if you're not the agency owner or manager, you might not have some of the functionality that we'll be going over today, but that's perfectly fine. You can always share this with someone in your company. It's just that not everyone might have the permission settings that I'm going to be demonstrating today. So just keeping that in mind. All right, so with that, let's get started. Let's go to my pub-trip.umapped.com, and I'm going to log in with my credentials. And the first thing that I want to mention is that if you don't see your logo in the top left when you log into the Trip Publisher after clicking on the little menu icon, so this guy right here, it means that your logo has not yet been added to your company profile. So today, right now, we're going to start talking about company information and branding. So as the company administrator, you will see the admin tab on the main menu bar. So right over here. And of course, if you don't see this option, it means that you have to reach out either to your company admin to request that your logo be loaded, or if that should be you, like I said earlier, just let us know in an email that you should be updated to a company admin status. All right, so I'm going to click into admin and we're going to stay in the default tab, company. So to add your company logo and other information, we're first going to, like I said, navigate to admin and stay within company. And then by clicking on the options icon, this guy right over here to the right of your company name, you'll be able to either edit the company profile. So this will be all of that company information like your address, contact information, etc. Or you can upload a new logo. If you hadn't uploaded one previously, or even if you just wanted to change the logo, if you've recently, commissioned a new logo, or you just have to update something, maybe the colors changed or something like that, that you can always come back here and upload a brand new logo. So I'm going to start by clicking on Edit Company Profile, and this is going to take me to where I can update my company's address, the main contact person, and additional contact information. This will also include company social media details, such as website, Facebook, and even Instagram links. And this is actually the only spot where you'll be able to add an Instagram link, as this currently isn't available on an agent level. And all of the details that I'm adding right here are going to appear on every trip that you or your agent send off to travelers. Except for contact information, this person right here, sorry, contact person, that's not going to appear on any itinerary, so don't worry about that. But all of the contact information is going to appear on all of your itineraries. So let's actually put in some additional info. I'm going to leave me as the main contact, and then maybe here for city, I'll say Toronto, and I'll say ON for Ontario, Canada. And then maybe in the website, we'll just put umapped.com. And you'll see that I just left these kind of blank. I can also just put /Twitter for /Umapped. Maybe I'll do the same thing with Instagram and Facebook, facebook.com. And then after you've entered all of the correct information, you're just going to press save. And then you can see here all of that info. And I can always check again. Don't worry, by the way, if you can't see the social media links that you added under this contact bar. This is really only going to show the email that you've added and a phone number. And I just hadn't added either of those two things. So I can just quickly go ahead and add this. Oh, it automatically changed to something I did before. Let's get rid of that and save. See, phone number's there now. Okay. Following that, I'm also going to add my company logo. It's a fairly simple process, but if you do have a logo, by the way, that's wider than it is tall, be sure to reach out to us at support to make a quick adjustment to your company account from our side, just to ensure that your logo is displaying correctly on your itineraries. Sometimes wider logos can be cut off without this quick adjustment, but you can always check with us just to be sure. So I'll just quickly upload a brand new logo. Let's do logo text here and then upload. And there we go. Now, when you're adding a logo, by the way, you can drag and drop into this field here, or you can just click on it in order to upload, just to let you know. Of course, like I said earlier, if you ever need to update any of the information, including the company logo, I can always come back here to do just that. So I can always re-edit any profile information or upload any new logos. Now, if you happen to also operate under another brand, or if some of your agents have their own branding that you'd like to use while they're still in your main company, you also have the option of setting up multiple brand profiles to properly brand trips within your company. You'll see actually here I have a couple just beneath my main company logo. So multiple brand support and multiple brand profiles allow users with the administrator role, such as myself, to create additional brands within their company that can be used by themselves or even by other agents within their company. So if you have some ICs that are in your company and like to use their own branding, but still want to be able to access, company documentation or company templates, this is a really good solution for that. Of course, please note that you must have the travel professional plan and have the administrator role in order to create brand profiles. So any users on an individual plan can always upgrade to a travel professional plan if you'd like to have this feature. So to do so, I'm going to first click on the plus new button in the top right-hand corner, so very similar to when I'm creating a brand new trip. And that's going to open up this form right here where I can fill out new company details. So I'll call maybe this second brand the agency, the travel agency, let's say. And I'll put the address as that one right there that I just got from my saved addresses. And we'll just put Facebook maybe and a Twitter.com. I'll just take out the Umapped part because this is another brand and we're going to save this. And now you're going to see that's going to appear down here in my list of multiple brands. And I can go ahead and click on the options icon to then upload a new logo. So I'll just upload a nice little logo right there. And now I have another brand that I can actually choose from my list, and I can then brand some itineraries with the demo travel company logo, and I can brand other itineraries with the travel agency logo, as well as the travel agency information and everything within the company profile. So now, once the new brand has been set up, any agent can go select this new brand by navigating to their user profile. So that's going to be in the top right-hand corner, clicking on My Account. And then under the Company Information tab right here, they can choose the brand from the drop-down menu. And then they're just going to click whatever the brand they'd like to choose is, and then save that. And then once they've done that, they can actually, once you've saved it, go back to their trips. And if you click on the menu icon this time around, you'll notice that that new logo will display in the left-hand corner. And this is just going to show you that, okay, now I'm operating under this brand. And anytime I go and publish a trip or create a new trip, this logo and this company's information is going to appear on that itinerary. So if you ever want to check to see what brand you're operating under, if you're not 100% sure, you can always get a quick sneak peek just by clicking on the menu icon and checking whatever logo is in the top left corner. And just to give you a quick example of what that's going to look like when you do properly brand something, I will go to my trip to Italy, for example. And if I open up the web view right now without having done anything, let me just let this open and we'll log in with my credentials. You'll see that the old logo is currently on this itinerary because it was created under this other company branding. So if I wanted to apply the new travel agency logo and company information on this itinerary, all I'm going to do is republish the trip. And then give it a couple of seconds. It usually takes, I think, like a second or two just to make sure it's updated. And then voila, you'll see. The logo just changed, the company name just changed, all of the details that were associated with this company profile were just updated. So it's quite simple. You just have to remember to republish any trip that you want to apply the branding to in order to make sure it actually applies. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to accidentally switch to another brand and then have all of your trips suddenly switch to that branding. So you do have the ability to brand some trips with one logo and then some trips with another logo. Okay, so moving on from company information, we're now going to talk about setting up users. So we're just going to go back to the admin tab. Now, if you're new and you haven't yet added any agents to your company, or even if you've been using us for a while and you'd like to introduce new agents, typically to do so, you'd have to either have that agent or agents fill out the trial request form on our website. So I'm just going to show you where that is. So right up here in the top right corner on the website, where they can fill out this form and just let us know, the company name right over here. Even if they're an IC, they can just indicate that they're affiliated with you. Or you can always reach out to us at support directly with the names and the email addresses of those agents that you'd like set up, along with whatever plan they should be on. So you always have the option to kind of just let us know and we can do the work for you. And now once your agents have been set up, you can navigate to the Users tab to see who's in your company. So this is going to show you all of their agent details as well as their status. So you'll see over here if they're a power member or if they're an administrator or if they're a member status. So you have all of this information kind of at a glance. And then you can always edit any of these users' information by selecting the options icon just to the right of their name. So you can edit the user, and this will allow you to choose a new type if you want to make somebody actually an administrator with you or make them a power member or something like that. You can change any of their contact information if they've forgotten to put any of that and you just want to do it for them to make it a little bit easier. You'll notice you don't have access to update their name or email or any of that stuff. That's just because you have to reach out to support. That goes for pretty much everyone, even your own user information. But again, it's really, really easy. And then otherwise, you can also reset someone's password from here. So if you are a company administrator and one of your colleagues reaches out to you and says like they're unable to log into their account, you can always just reset their password for them. So you have quite a lot of different capabilities here. The one thing I do want to stress is that you should never select the delete user option unless you know for a fact, after having received confirmation from the Umapped customer success team, that this user is no longer on a paid subscription. The reason for this is that deleting a user doesn't actually deactivate their account or stop their billing. It just removes the user from your company. So if they're still being billed, that won't stop if you delete the user. So if you select this, it's not going to actually stop their billing, as they're still going to exist within our system. So for that reason, if you do need to deactivate an agent's account, always reach out to us at support@umapped.com to let us know, just so that we can ensure that the account has been properly deactivated and then send you a confirmation email about that. But then, of course, once you get that confirmation and you know that Sophie Fia O'Donnell at gmail.com is no longer paying for an account and it's all good, you could, of course, delete the user if you just want to clean up your user list a little bit. That's completely fine. Just don't click this ahead of time. Just in case you're being billed for it, you don't want to accidentally still have someone's an old account being billed to you and no one knows about it or who's being billed. Okay, so going back to the admin options, you'll notice that below the company tab, there's one entitled groups. And this allows me as the company administrator to put agents who typically collaborate together in a group. Because users who are not company administrators are unable to see anyone else's trips without being added on as a collaborator, regardless of whether they're part of the same company, these kinds of company groups allow users to share trips amongst colleagues without the need to add them as a collaborator. So if you know that an agent has an assistant, or if you know a few agents typically work together and collaborate on trips quite frequently, establishing these groups in advance, like the couple that I have right here, like demo group or work group 1 or whatever new creative title that you can think of, this will just ensure that those agents are able to see each other's trips from the company trips tab. All right, so to give you an example, we'll actually create a group together. So I'm going to click on the plus new button since this is a brand new group. And I'm just going to title this group Team A because I'm not very creative and I can't think of a better name right now. But anyway, now that I've started this group, we're going to scroll through the list of available users and we're going to just select the users that we want to add to this group. So I'll add Kelly, for example, and Melanie to this group. So now, if I save this, Kelly and Melanie are going to be able to see each other's trips from the company admin trip, sorry, the company trips part of their dashboard. So that's, if I go back to trips, right here in company trips. So even if those two users are not company administrators, and typically they wouldn't see anything in company trips, they'll now be able to see each other's trips and even go and edit and collaborate on them. So that's what groups are usually used for, and they're really, really, really helpful, especially if you have a larger agency where there are pockets of agents who work together a lot on trips. Okay, now that we've looked at groups, this is also a good opportunity for us to talk about setting up integrations for your company. So I actually have a sheet that I've already put together, and we're going to specifically be looking at the following. So let me just present this. So we're going to be looking at Sabre Live, Client Base Sync, Travel Contact, Tramada, Project Expedition, Ultimate Jet Vacations, and Wet2. So I'm just going to go back to the top. And Wet2 is for our DMC and tour operator users, if anyone here is part of those. So those are our only integrations that involve an actual setup. Others, such as Classic Vacations, are accessible without any assistance needed from the support team or your own internal IT team. The same thing with Amadeus and Travelport. I just didn't want to remove them from this sheet because it's a really good sheet, but we're not going to be talking about them today because they're not an actual integration that you need to set up. So I only want to focus on stuff that you actually have to set up with our team and your own team. So first of all, like I always usually say when we talk about integrations, it is important to note that the trip publisher is system agnostic. And this means that it doesn't matter which systems you do or do not use, the platform is really for everyone, and there's a lot of flexibility within the platform, even if you use a CRM or a booking platform that we don't have an integration with. However, that being said, I do want to review right now some of the key GDS and system and supplier integrations that are available to everyone, just to make sure that if you do use these systems for your business, you know how to set them up, you know what they're used for, and you know if you have to set up it multiple times, if maybe you have multiple agents that are using the system, or whether it's good just at the agency level. All right, so we're going to take a quick look at each available integration. And if anyone has any questions, I'm going to be sending out some instructions in an email like I usually do at the end of this. But if you have any questions about any of these different integrations or any suggestions for future ones, you can always just, like I always say, send us an email at support@umapped.com. All right, so we're going to start with Sabre, since that's the only GDS integration that we have. So we're not looking at these guys. These are just here because I like this sheet. So the Sabre Live integration is a import of all of your PNR data from your GDS account. And that means not just confirmed bookings within Sabre, but also, I think they're called pseudo-confirmed or something like that. But essentially anything that you have in a Sabre PNR, we're going to be importing directly into the trip publisher. And all you have to do is queue your PNR to the trip publisher using a queue command, which we always let you know during the integration process. And then you can retrieve this from the booking inbox and create a brand new trip or add it to an existing trip. To set this up, it's really an agency setup. So we only need to do this one time for a company. So if you have, just your one company that's using Sabre Live, it's really just that one time that we need to set it up. So it's pretty quick. Usually I think it takes maybe like a week or two just to get it started, and then you're good to go and you can retrieve all of your PNRs from the booking inbox. So we'll actually do a quick example together, just because I think it makes sense to show you what it looks like once you have the Sabre Live integration already set up, because then it's good to give this kind of visual. So we're going to be using an account that I already have the Sabre Live setup, the Sabre Live integration set up for, and I've already queued a PNR in the past. So at this point, I can either go to the booking inbox from the dashboard itself, or if I already have a trip started, I can go into a trip. There's not really a difference in what you're going to be retrieving. It's really whether you want to create a brand new trip, or add it to something you're already working on. That's the extent of the difference between whether you go in a trip or start from the dashboard. So we're going to start from the dashboard and go to the booking inbox. And we're going to enter the PNR in the keyword box right here. So we're going to put flight 2021 and then search. And if you're familiar with this because you've seen this before in some of our webinars, I can click the drop down arrow to see details of the PNR. And then if I click on the options icon, I've got two different options. So I can create a brand new trip from scratch, or I can add it to something that I'm already working on. So I'll just create a brand new trip from scratch, just so I can say agency setup, webinar example, and then we'll create a trip. And then voila, everything that was in that PNR automatically will create individual segments within the trip. And you'll notice that there's a couple of segments in here that also came with photos and address information, and those weren't actually in Sabre. I just want to clarify. These are actually populating this, the Lanesboro has some photos attached to it and some address information and a phone number, because this is already a vendor in my vendor database. So because the Lanesboro's name was the same in Sabre as it is in my vendor database, they actually matched when I imported the PNR, and I automatically am able to see the vendor profile for the Lanesboro. So that's one of the really cool things if you have one of these integrations, even if, you're pushing something from Sabre, or sorry, queuing a PNR from Sabre to the trip publisher, or you're retrieving a res card from client base. If the name is the same in the system that you are using, like Sabre or like client base, as it is in your vendor database, then kind of cuts your work in half, because I didn't have to add any of this, these photos or this information, because it just matched up for me on my own. So that's a really cool feature. All right. All right, so let's go back to that sheet that I set up, because we kind of got a little look at what it looks like to import from Sabre. This is probably not going to be new to anybody. You've likely seen us import a Sabre PNR in the past, but I just wanted to show you how quick it is to do so once you've been set up with the integration. So like I mentioned, I'm not going to spend any time today discussing Amadeus or Travelport, because we've covered these in other webinars, and also because neither of these have to be set up per se. These are just available via either an email confirmation forwarding or a PNR import, which again are not integrations. So there's no direct push from either of these systems to our system. So we're going to go into system integrations. So we're going to start with client base. And actually kind of similar to Sabre Live, this is just a one-time agency setup. So once the client base integration is set up for the very first time, you never really have to think about it again. The only reason you'd ever need to get in touch with us is if you were experiencing some issues with client base. That would be the only reason you need to reach out to support after setting it up. But this is a sync of your res card data from client base to the trip publisher. And every time it's synced, which it is, I think, about 3 times a day or something like that, it becomes available in the booking inbox, and you can then add it to a trip or create a brand new trip from it. Very similar, very similar to Sabre Live that we just looked at. It's also good to note that the Umapped sync is a little different with client base than it is with Sabre Live. So just to explain, we sync to the Tram Central database about 6 times a day. Okay, yeah, 6, not 3. So there's usually about 3 hours between sync times. So if you have a new res card or you have edits to an existing res card, I would recommend just waiting about 3 hours or so for it to be either available or updated in the trip publisher, just to account for both the Umapped sync frequency as well as your company's sync frequency. You'll also note that res cards that are created about 6 months prior to the date of import are not going to be, won't be able to sync just because they're 6 months old, so they're no longer available in the booking inbox. But you can always copy and paste your res card into just a brand new res card. It's entirely possible. I've done it a couple of times, and that will constitute a new res card. So even though all of the information is exactly the same, it'll just be a new res card that we can then access from the booking inbox. So I'm going to go back to my Trip Publisher account. And again, to retrieve a res card from Clientbase, because I have the integration, it could be done from the dashboard or from within a trip. So really doesn't matter where you want to do it from. Maybe in this case, I will do it from a trip just so I can show you the two different ways. And we're going to go to import bookings. And then in the keyword field, we're just going to put in the res card number. So in my case, it's going to be 3434. Actually, no, 3333. That's a good one. And we're going to search for that. Give it a second. There we go. Okay, cool. And you could just, again, click on the drop-down arrow to view whatever's inside of this res card, and then click on the options icon to add it to this trip. You'll notice when you're in a trip, you'll only have the option to add it to the trip you're currently in. That's what I meant between doing it from the dashboard versus doing it from a trip. There's just a couple slight differences. So we'll add this to my trip. And then again, voila, whatever was in here is automatically going to create some segments in the trip itself. And finally, for Clientbase, by the way, this is actually a two-way integration. So not only can you import bookings from Clientbase into the Trip Publisher, but you can also import bookings from the Trip Publisher back into Clientbase. So if I go to support@umapped.com, I can actually show you where you can find more about this. Let me just go to Clientbase Live Connect. So yeah, this feature is called Clientbase Live Connect, and it's available within the Clientbase window by navigating to Utilities and then selecting Live Connect Providers, where Umapped is listed as a Live Connect provider, or from Clientbase Online, where Umapped is listed as a Live Connect provider. By going to Clientbase Online, to Tools, then Settings, and then Live Connect Providers. If this is something that interests you, I recommend checking out the Live Connect user setup solution on our support portal, right here, as this solution provides not only instructions, but also photos for you to reference. So just to distinguish between the two again, Live Connect means that you're actually taking stuff from within the Trip Publisher back into Clientbase. So that's really useful if you've made something, independently in the Trip Publisher, and for invoicing purposes, you wanted to bring it back into Clientbase because Clientbase is a really good invoicing tool. So I'm just showing you, this is the actual only integration that goes both ways. So that's quite cool about Clientbase. You can use it for pushing stuff into Umapped, but also taking stuff out. All right, so let's go back to my little sheet. And then we're going to do just a quick look at Travel Contact and Tramada, because they're actually very, very similar in terms of how you retrieve your information. For both Travel Contact and Tramada, which by the way are Travel Contact is a really cool trip building platform as well that has a CRM components, invoicing tools, and then you have the ability when you're putting together different segments within your trip in Travel Contact to create the itinerary using the Umapped integration. So there's a lot of really cool techniques some cool functionality in Travel Contact. And Tramada is a CRM and booking platform, an invoicing platform, So if you're ever looking for, different technology solutions, these are two really good examples. And for both of them, we actually have a direct integration with these two different systems. So it's a one-way integration, like pretty much all of our integrations. We're taking information from Travel Contact into the Trip Publisher, or taking information from Tramada into the Trip Publisher. So you can't push information back into those systems. It's just the one way. Now for Travel Contact, this actually needs to be set up on a user level. So while we do need to set it up the first time for the entire agency, after that, if there are multiple agents within your agency that'd like to use the Travel Contact integration, they would just need to let us know, or you would just need to let us know on their behalf, because we would have to set it up for each individual user. Tramada is quite a bit easier. It's just the agency setup, like with Clientbase or Sabre Live. So if you have a Tramada account, you can always let us know and we'll set it up for the entire company so that everybody can take advantage of the integration. And now for both Travel Contact and Tramada, when you're pushing your trip data from one of these two systems to the trip publisher, for both of them, the trip is automatically going to be published within the trip publisher and sent out to a client, although we can suppress any of this as well. So I can show you by logging into one of my other accounts, Traveler Sophie. I actually have a Travel Contact account. So let me just log into Travel Contact. I'll show you a quick example of what it looks like to send a trip from Travel Contact to Trip Publisher. So we're going to go to Trips. We're going to create one. We're just going to call this a BTB sample. Trip date, we'll have it start in March 4th. Create. And now I just need one service. So let's add a quick ad. Let's do Hilton. Doubletree Hilton. The 4th. Oh, I forgot to do this guy. And voila. And then we're just going to confirm the service. This is not a tutorial on how to use Travel Contact. I just want to show you how I can push it. So now let's say I'm done this trip. This is just a little sample that I put together. You'll notice that there's a button to actually push this to Umapped. So I'm going to click on this. Show Umapped. And automatically I can see the web view directly from Travel Contact. And then if I go to my Umapped account, so let's just refresh. Right there, it's going to be within my trips. And you can see that it was already published, so it auto-published, and it auto-sent to the traveler that I attached. So it's sent to yvonne@email.com. And everything that was within my Travel Contact trip automatically got added here. And they even auto-selected me a cover photo for the trip, although I can always change this myself if I don't like the photo. So that was a really cool example. So now I'm going to leave this account because I just wanted to give you guys a look at what it looks like to push a trip from Travel Contact to Umapped because it's very similar with Tramada, so you'll get the idea from that. But that's what it looks like. And so everybody registered, of course, is going to receive full details in a follow-up email just to make sure that you can get your account set up if it isn't already. But I'm just going to go back to the sheet. And lastly, we're going to talk about our supplier integrations. Now, I'll show you where you can find all of these different suppliers, but they're essentially all direct integrations from the supplier to your trip publisher account. For Project Expedition, it's just a one-time user setup. So if you are interested in getting the Project Expedition integration, if you use Project Expedition for any bookings for tours and excursions, just reach out to us with whatever your Project Expedition email is so we can get that set up. But essentially, this setup just allows you to retrieve your bookings that were made in Project Expedition from the suppliers portion of Trip Publisher. So what that means is if I go to my Trip Publisher account and I go into a trip, because this can only be accessed from within a trip, within suppliers, you'll notice the Project Expedition button. And if I have the integration, which I don't on this account, I can just retrieve my booking via a booking confirmation number. So that makes it really easy to me. Just pick up any bookings I made in Project Expedition. For Ultimate Jet Vacations, this is also a direct integration with your UJV account. It does require an agency setup and a one-time user setup. So just have to reach out to us to get that started. But this allows you to push your trip data from UJV to the trip publisher, and then you can retrieve anything you've made in Ultimate Jet Vacations from the booking inbox. So I can just show you. If I go to the booking inbox and click on source, you'll notice that Ultimate Jet Vacations is one of our sources. So anything that you need to retrieve from Ultimate Jet Vacations can be done directly from here. You just need to put in whatever the record locator is. And then lastly, for our supplier and tour operator partners who use Wet2, we do have a direct integration with Wet2. So this allows you to push your trip data from Wet2 to, I'm so sure that I'm pronouncing Wet2 wrong, by the way, but from Wet2 to the trip publisher. This is just a one-time agency setup, so it's quite easy to get set up. And if you are a Wet2 tour operator, you can always reach out to us if you'd like to get set up so that your tours are accessible from suppliers, because that's entirely possible. You'll notice if I go to suppliers, there's actually a couple different Wet2 tour operators here, like Discovery TMC, Gilt Edge Africa, and a few others. So if you're a Wet2 tour operator, you can always let us know so that we can start the process of putting you in our suppliers. But for anybody that just uses Wet2 for their itineraries and they're not really interested in being available as a supplier, I don't have the option in this account because I don't have the Wet2 setup, but there would be a third tab in the booking inbox called Import from Wet2. And you can import anything you've made in Wet2 into the trip publisher. Okay. So once your integrations have all been set up, you can always reference any of these different integrations that you might have set up just by navigating back to your company tab. So we're going to go to admin and stay in the default company tab and select API token, which will show you exactly what integrations you have set up for your company. So that way, if you aren't already sure whether you've set an integration up in the past, you can always come here just to double check. So you'll see I have Sabre in this here, I got client base, I have PE, which Project Expedition, and I also have, I'm pretty sure this is Travel Contact. This may be Travel Contact, yeah. So you can always come here as the company admin to double check. It's a little bit, you have to be familiar with how it looks, but it'll tell you here if it's from Sabre, client base, or one of our APIs, or Travel Contact, or Tramada, yada, yada, yada. So you can always come here just to double check. Okay. And now that my company and user information is all set up and the company integrations are either already in place or I've at least reached out to get the ball rolling, it's time to turn to company resources. And by this, I mean your documents, your templates, and your tags, all of which are either available to everyone in your company by default, you know, in the case of documents, or you can elect to make them available, such as templates. But we'll get into the nitty-gritty in just a moment. So setting up these kinds of company-created templates and company documentation means that you can communicate your brand image and your voice to your agents from the get-go. So before they've ever even set up their own destination content and or templates, they'll have a wealth of resources already created by the company administrator that they can choose from. Now, today we're not going to delve into how to actually create these things, such as a document or a template. We covered these topics much better in more dedicated webinars, and they would take a lot more time than I have available today. So today, I just want to focus on how these can be made available to all users in your company and where those users can find these resources. So we're going to start with documents, just because we're going to start from the one that's easiest for users to find versus the one that's much harder, or not harder, but just takes a few more steps. So the first thing to mention here is that for documents, which we're going to start with, by default, anything created by anyone in your company will be available to all users. So you don't really have to do any work here in terms of making documentation available to other agents. What you can do instead is set up some of the company documentation ahead of time, just to ensure that the information is phrased and presented exactly the way you want. For example, you can see that I already have a document set up called Agency Documents. And this contains a bunch of information that I want my agents to be able to easily provide to clients, such as our company terms and conditions, a standard before you go checklist, visa information, and all kinds of other stuff. And you can even create a whole document just on visa information for different different countries that you typically send travelers to. So this can be multiple documents. It doesn't have to be just one agency document. This is just a good example. And this can include whatever else you might think of. So maybe, for example, like a profile on one of your advisors, or I have a little custom participant card that I can fill out ahead of time, maybe for my travelers or something like that. So this can now be accessed by all of my different agents and then added to all trips. And it's really simple. They can access a full document or page just from within their trip, right from the get-go. Like I said, you can see here that I can see someone else made these. I made the majority of them. So maybe you want to assign somebody to make the majority of your documents. But you can see Danielle made this one. Danielle made Getting Around Budapest. Jess made Guide to Maui. So they're very, very, very collaborative in that sense. So next, we're going to go to templates. And like I mentioned, today we're not going to be covering exactly how to create a template, as we have other webinars that do exactly that. Instead, we're just going to choose a template that I've already created and show you how you can make it available to your agents and then where they'll be able to locate it. So we're going to look at how templates are managed within your company by examining some of the tabs at the top over here. So company administrators, of course, have the ability to see all of the templates created by users in the company just by clicking on this company templates, the group templates tab. And then I can see everybody's, whether or not they're pending or published or whatever. But then they also have the ability to make templates available for everybody in the company so that they'd be able to come to company templates and then make use of them later on by creating a new trip from one of these templates or just getting inspiration from them. So just as a quick rundown of what these different tabs mean, I'm going to start with templates. So my templates is where all of the templates that you personally have created. And this includes both pending as well as published templates. So these are just things that I myself have created. You're never going to see anybody else's here. Now for group templates, this is typically only available for company administrators, but also members of the same group that we talked about earlier. So company administrators can see right off the bat every template created by anyone in the company. Like I can see Barry's, I can see my own, I can see Mary's, whether or not they're in pending or published status. And as the company administrator, I even have the ability to go into any of these different templates, maybe do some edits, add a photo or something like that. I can make any edits that I'd like. But like I mentioned, members of the same group are also able to see each other's templates from within here. So that's another reason that you might want to set people up in groups, because then they can collaborate on templates together even when they're still in that pending, not quite finished phase. And if a template is published in group templates, the company administrator even has the ability to make this template available to everybody in the company. So we'll talk about how to do that in a quick sec, but I just want to move on to company templates first. So everybody has access to the company templates tab by default, not just company administrators. But this tab only contains published templates that were made available to everybody in the company. So the company templates tab really only has any function if the company administrator has started to make some templates available to everybody else, which is what we'll talk about in a second. Because only the company administrator at the end of the day has the ability to make a template a company template. So if you're not a company admin, but you'd like to make one of your companies available to other people, you'll just have to get in touch with the admin in order to quickly do it for you. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate how to make a template available in company templates. So first, we're going to go to group templates, and we're going to select a template that has not been created by my administrator account, Travel Advisor. So we're going to go to London, Paris, and I'll just briefly unpublish it first so we can start as if this was a pending template. But I'm just going to go into this template just to show you that as the company administrator, I have the ability to edit somebody else's template. So I can still make any edits or changes. And I also have the ability to publish a pending template. So I'll just do that. And once I've clicked on publish, you'll notice that this little lock icon will become available in the blue toolbar. Now, when you see the lock icon, this means that this is a private template. So private templates are, of course, only available to the creator to use, or the company administrator, or members of the same group to just see. So if I, as the company administrator, actually go ahead and click on the lock icon, it'll change it to a shopfront icon. And what that means is if I go back to my library and I go to group templates, you'll see that that London template is no longer here. But if I go to company templates, London and Paris is right here in my company templates. So now other users can come here and decide if they'd like to create a new trip from this template, or just look at it and gain some inspiration if they're working on something of their own. So this is how I can now have all of these different models of templates available to everybody in my company. So if I have like 5 or 10 different ideal templates, this is how I can ensure that my colleagues are able to use them and continue to communicate our brand image and our brand voice. Okay, and now lastly, the last topic we're going to talk about today is tags. So we're going to go to my tags over here. Now, the tag functionality works best if you and your colleagues tend to create a high volume of templates, because these two are completely interlinked. You're not going to be able to use tags if you don't have any templates already set up. And this is because essentially tags and tag groups allow you to easily categorize and then search for your templates. So particularly if you have a high volume of templates, these are going to allow you to add a lot of contextuality and really help define your templates, so you know at a glance when you're giving some options to clients, what would constitute a good option or a good proposal. So creating tags as well as tag groups, you'll notice there's 2 different tags, and then, tag groups and tags, allow you to tag a template with a feature. So by tagging templates, it's easier to sort and search. Wow, I cannot speak. Sort and search the multiple templates. You'll note, of course, that only company administrators have the ability to create, edit, delete tags and tag groups, but anyone can then add a tag to their template later on. So assigning tags and tag groups to your templates allow you to organize your templates across these 5 different categories. So we have destination, trip type, price, amenities, and experiences. I said this out of order, but still we go. You can also quickly search and find templates that are relevant to your client's travel interest. And these allow you to also promote templates that you want your advisors to sell for admin users. So a common scenario would be for maybe you to create a template for destinations that you sell frequently, and then to use tags to describe some of the key attributes of the template. So for example, I have a template, I believe, under my templates that's been tagged with hiking. That was one of my experiences tags right here, hiking. So if I was meeting with a client for the very first time and they were to say to me, I was really interested in going hiking, but I'm not too pressed about the location, as long as it involves a lot of hiking, I can look up hiking here in the search bar. And then any templates that have been tagged with that tag, you'll see when I hover over it, it's right down here at the bottom, will automatically pop up. And this allows you to really further get down to the nitty gritty of what you're tagging, because you can look up multiple different tag searches. So I can look up hiking as well as culinary if they want both of those different factors in their trip. And this will help me really refine what template I'm going to offer them. Again, this is mainly useful if you have a good deal of templates and you and your colleagues create quite a lot. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to tags really quickly. Let's go here. So within the tag categories, apart from price and trip type, you'll notice that there's something called your tag attributes. And these just allow you to add more descriptions to your tags or your tag groups, just to get, again, a little bit more contextuality around any of these different tags. So again, today we're not going to go into how to create tags because I have done a webinar already on that. If you're interested, I can always send you that. But I just wanted to show you where these can be located. And then later on, if I'm creating a template and I wanted to add some tags, so for instance, what tag should we use? We'll use Dublin as a tag, for instance. We're going to go back to my templates and we're going to go to sample template to Dublin. This is a bit redundant because Dublin's already in the title, but no bother. We're going to unpublish this, first of all, to ensure that it's in the pending status. And we're going to go to the last option on the left-hand side called tags. And from here, you can search each of the different tag categories. So maybe for price, I want to look up one of my luxury tags. And I'll just select luxury. And now this template has been tagged with luxury. So if I publish this, let's say, and I go look up luxury later on in the keyword tab, anything that's been tagged with luxury is automatically going to pop up in my search results. And again, I can also see it in the preview as well if I want to see if I've added any other tags at the same time. So maybe if I'd added kitchenette as well, or spa amenities or something like that, these would all be available for me to look at. Okay, so let's go back to the agenda. All right, so over the course of this webinar, we've covered all of the features and functionality that will help set agency owners up with their agency and get set up within the trip publisher. So this included adding company information, logos, and multiple brand profiles, setting up groups of users within the trip publisher, setting up integrations for your company, and creating those company-specific resources like documentation, templates, and tags, and then how they can be utilized by agents in the future. So since we're approaching the 1 hour mark and I don't want to take up too much time, we are going to move on to the Q&A portion of this webinar now. But if you aren't able to stay, that's entirely fine. We're going to be recording everything we do today. So even if I take a couple minutes longer after 2 p.m., I will still send the recording to everybody post-webinar. So everybody, thank you again for attending. I already noticed that there's some questions, so I'm just thanking everyone in advance for participating and like leaving your questions and getting really engaged with this. Anyways, thank you. So I'm going to take a 5-second coffee break just to make sure that I can stop talking for a minute or so, and then I'll get right into all of the questions. Okay, let's get into this. Oh yeah, Allison said I'm going to start with the introduction to Umapped webinar as this is a better starting point. Yeah, so today I really didn't go into like how to do basically anything in terms of trip building because this is not the, this is not going to help. It's a lot of information to give when I really just wanted to show you how you can set stuff up for your agency. If anyone's interested, by the way, back in like August of 2020, I did a really intense boot camp where I'll actually pull up the landing page that I made for it. But this boot camp that I did in August was super intense. I basically did a webinar every single day on one specific feature. So like getting started, so just getting set up with your profile versus integrations and all that kind of stuff. So if anybody has a little extra time, these are all about 40 minutes to an hour long, so it is a little lengthy. But if you need to review anything or you really just want to get into the like nuance to the nitty gritty about any of these different features, you can always let us know and I can send you this landing page that includes all of the recordings right there. I think this is also on our support portal as well. This is just a cute landing page. Okay. Um, Carol asked, as far as adding users to the account, can you add a user that works in your office as a clerical person and not an agent without having them pay to subscribe? At the moment, in order to add another user, they do need to be on a paid subscription after their trial. So you could always add somebody just for the trial period if you'd like. Um, there is also the ability to add a collaborator, but collaborators only have a 2-month account, quote unquote. So if you would, you can always add somebody for those like 30-day or 60-day periods. But in order to have like their own separate account, they would need to have a paid subscription, unfortunately. That being said, if you have somebody in your account that, in your company that you would like to, just like go into your account every so often and make some edits while you're doing something else, you could also technically do that. Just you can't log into your account at the same time, just because you can't have multiple users in the same account. I have experienced this myself when, unfortunately, Rob, my coworker, and I have tried to log into this demo account when we're both doing demos, and you just can't log in at the same time. But if you're going to log in at alternate times, you can always share an account with someone. That's totally fine. Um, da da da. Carol also asked, are more suppliers being added to the database? We have something coming up in the next little while. I'm not going to get too into it just because I don't know the time frame just yet, and I'm currently working on setting some materials up for the campaign. But there's something coming up in the work. There's something in the works in the future. I just can't give information. That being said, if anybody has any suppliers that they typically use that aren't part of our integrated suppliers here and are also not part of those supported suppliers for email confirmation forwarding, I just always bring this up, the email confirmation stuff, because I think this list can get lost in all of the information. But this list for email confirmation forwarding is very extensive. So I always would recommend, just look at this and check out to see if someone that you book with is on this list. And then you can just forward one of your emails from them. But if you use a supplier that isn't on either of these two lists, what I would always recommend is just send us a quick email with your recommendation for a supplier or any contact that you might have at that tour operator or that supplier's office, just so we can put it in our records, because we do keep basically a tally board of how many people want a specific integration, because this just gives us a good idea of like how likely it is to be used. So all of these different tour operators and suppliers on this page were actually added because a number of users reached out to the point where there was a solid case to be made about adding something like Kentucky or Alluring Americas. So I would always say it never hurts to just send us an email and say, I really like so-and-so, this tour operator, here's a contact. Or if you don't, you can omit it, doesn't matter. And we'll just add your vote to our list. No problem, Carol. Okay. Estefania asked, hi, regarding travel contact, I'm not sure I understood correctly. We need to give you the user credentials from all of our users for travel contact to be set up with Umapped. In that case, if we create new users, we would need to contact yourselves each time. Yes, so for travel contact, if I just go back to this sheet, travel contact is it's set up at a user level. So every single time that a new agent would like to use the integration, they will need to let us know. This can be done by themselves if the agent themselves just wants to send us a quick email, because it's very simple. The integration itself, once it's been set up for the whole agency, it's super easy to do at a user level. But they do need to let us know every time. It's just the way that the integration was set up. I don't actually know the technical details of why, but yeah, so for any new user from your company that would like to use travel contact, even if you yourself have it, that person would still either themselves need to get in touch with support@umapped.com, or you could do it on their behalf if you were so inclined. There's no reason they couldn't, but you can do it as well if you'd like. Doesn't matter. But yeah, we need to set up for each person individually. It's just the way that it is, unfortunately. Wish I could give a better answer, but it just has to. Um, Estefania also asked, and also you mentioned that once Umapped is integrated, an email with the web view details will be sent to the main client in the trip. How would we stop that? And how do we make sure the picture that appears relates to the trip that they have booked? That's a great question, actually. So that's going back to, if I log out here and go back into here. So you'll notice when I sent this trip from Travel Contact um, to Umapped, wow, I forgot the name of our company for a second, it automatically published and automatically added the traveler. We can actually make an adjustment on our end at Umapped to ensure that it doesn't get sent to the traveler. You just need to let us know. The reason that this is set up as it is right now is that a lot of users actually who have the travel contact account only log into Umapped to add a couple of destination content stuff, but they don't log in like all of the time. They typically just like to do everything from travel contact and then send it off. So we have it automatically send out to clients just because if they don't want to log into Umapped, they actually don't have to. They could just do all of their work from travel contact, but still have access to the really nice itinerary aspect. So it does automatically send off to clients, but like I said, you could just let us know if you don't want that and we can make a quick adjustment. You just need to let us know because it's not the default, but we can always make sure that it doesn't send out to travelers right away. Like I said, the only reason it's there is just if you wanted to do all of your work from Travel Contact, you could do that without ever logging into Umapped. The other thing that Estefania asked was ensuring that the photo that appears is the right one. So this is going to auto select based on the keyword. I think it gave me like sample. It gave me a weird photo because I didn't have any locations anywhere in here. So if you don't like the photo, you can always come back into Umapped and just change the photo really quick. So you can like look at the photo library and type in no, let's do Pittsburgh from search web because I want to use Unsplash. And we can search. And if you don't want to look through all of this because you don't want to be bothered by it, you can always auto pick as well. And you can always change it every single time. So if you need to change the cover photo, you would need to log into Umapped just to click on to choose a new photo. So yeah, you just have to log into your account in order to change the photo. And Lawton asked, if I have client base, why would I need an integration from a supplier direct versus being able to import res card data to trip publishers from a large number of suppliers? A second, let me reread that. Lawton asked, if I have client base, why would I need an integration from a supplier direct versus being able to import res card data to the trip publisher from a large number of suppliers? That's entirely possible. You could, if you have client base, you wouldn't have to worry about having, Project Expedition or Ultimate Jet Vacations or anything like that, because technically you're booking everything in client base and then pulling the res card data into your trip. So you're right, you don't need any other integrations if you do everything in client base, because at the end result is everything is in client base, which we have a connection with. So if you have client base and that's where you do all of your business, don't worry about getting any of the other integrations. The only reason I mentioned stuff like Project Expedition and Ultimate Jet and stuff like that is for any of you who don't do the bulk of your work in Sabre or Client Base or Travel Contact or Tramada or something like that. If you book directly with the suppliers and you don't put anything in another system like Client Base, then you might want to have those supplier integrations. Okay. And Estefania asked also, what is the cost to use the Umapped service with Travel Contact? We'll actually get back to you after this webinar, just because I have to double check on the sheet. I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest. It's been a little while since I've had to reference that sheet. And Carol asked, any chance there is interest in an in-person seminar that could be put together? Um, I'm not sure by in person if you meant like just if we all had our videos on for a call or actually in person. Right now, if it is the latter, and you did mean like an in person seminar, obviously at the moment circumstances aren't the best for that. But in normal circumstances, we typically will be at most consortia conferences like um, I did the conference and the ensemble conference this year, but we'll typically go in person to those, and we can always do demos in person. Um, and if you're anywhere near Toronto, when things start to go back to normal, we can always do an in-person meeting. But we're based in Canada in Toronto, so we wouldn't be able to do in-person seminars for probably anything like further than that, like in the States or anything like that, just because travel right now is really restricted, and also um, it would just be a pretty big expense even if things were back to normal. But I could look into maybe doing like a more conference call style webinar. I would just need to figure out what that would look like because that could be cool. I just usually don't put my camera on these days because I am always in my no makeup look. But this is what I look like. So hi everybody. I just haven't worn makeup in like literally months. Mm. Oh yeah, Toronto in person. Yeah, I mean, when circumstances are better. Right now, I'm personally based out of Montreal just because I went home to see family. But that's something we could look at in the future. I think that'd be interesting. I don't think that there's any more questions, so I think we'll end today's webinar here. It's over the hour anyway, so thank you all so much for participating in all of these questions. I hope this was helpful, but if you have any more questions, you can always reach out to support@umapped.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible, and I'll be sending everyone out a follow-up to this probably by the end of the day. So thank you so much, everybody, again, and have a great rest of your day.